Breaking news today. The media's focus has returned to the Republicans in the Epstein scandal, yet it seems Democrats and global elites are often overlooked. Why is transparency demanded only from one side? Americans deserve complete accountability from all involved, not just the usual suspects.
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
MSNBC's Chris Hayes recently grilled J.D. Vance about his spin on the Epstein controversy, highlighting a broader issue. Why does the media focus intensely on Republicans in scandals involving powerful figures while often overlooking Democrats with similar connections? Tonight, the spotlight is on Vice President J.D. Vance's defense of President Trump, yet there's little scrutiny of former President Biden's administration or Bill Clinton, both of whom have also been linked to Epstein. Is this pursuit truly about justice, or is it about protecting the elite networks that have long dominated Washington? Notice the selective outrage. Those who once covered up for their allies now feign shock over connections they helped establish. For genuine answers, we must demand transparency from all corners of this corrupt system. The truth is, both parties are implicated, but only one seems to bear the consequences. Why is that? Let the show begin.
President J.D. Vance, who as far as we can tell hasn't been seen in public with Trump since this stuff got so messy and spends a lot of time on Twitter, did make a statement on Twitter many hours after the Wall Street Journal report. Quote, "Forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter BS. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing." Where is the letter? Would you be shocked to learn they never showed it to us before publishing it?
The spectacle we're witnessing is yet another example of how mainstream media, particularly outlets like MSNBC, latch onto stories that align with their anti-Republican narrative, often overlooking the need for substance and transparency. The Wall Street Journal's decision to publish sensational claims without providing the alleged letter beforehand raises serious questions about journalistic integrity and underlying agendas. When stories rely on unproduced evidence, it's not just irresponsible, it's a disservice to the American public, who deserve facts, not innuendo. Now taste the overwhelming focus on Republican figures, with scant attention given to Democrats or the influential global elites who are also part of Epstein's circle. This selective outrage is evident. When similar allegations involve the left or their international allies, the coverage is often muted or overlooked. This double standard has led many Americans to lose faith in legacy media and their investigative processes. There's a clear reluctance to demand transparency from all involved parties. The American people deserve a thorough accounting of who enabled Epstein and who benefited from his network, including politicians, financiers, and global elites who often seem to operate above the law. Instead, what we get is partisan theater and legal maneuvering that seems designed to protect the establishment. The real story extends beyond a single letter or politician. It's about the bipartisan decay that allows predators to thrive while the media selectively chooses its targets. It's also revealing how quickly the narrative shifts away from the failures of previous administrations. For years, the Biden administration and its Justice Department allies dragged their feet on investigations and blocked information requests. Now, as the current administration seeks accountability, the same critics decry these efforts. The hypocrisy is stark. Americans are weary of endless foreign entanglements and the globalist networks that profit from international chaos while overlooking domestic corruption. Rather than fixating on unsubstantiated claims, the media should be probing why so many from both parties were comfortable around Epstein and why the system continues to shield the powerful at the expense of justice. This issue goes beyond partisan squabbles. It's about rebuilding trust in our institutions and ensuring that no one, whether Republican, Democrat, or billionaire elite, is above the law. Until the media and political class are prepared to hold everyone to the same standard, the American people will continue to see through these manufactured scandals and demand genuine reform.
You see, the New York Times published a report that Trump's name was indeed one of the many listed as contributors for that birthday book for Epstein. That reporting included this handwritten letter by Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, as something of an introduction for the book. And it also included this photograph of a different book, Trump's 1997 The Art of the Comeback, with the future president inscribed to one Jeffrey Epstein, quote to Jeff, "You are the greatest." But that's not all we learned last night. The Wall Street Journal also followed up on the birthday book, revealing a bunch of other folks, apparently including letters of their own. People from Vera Wang to the former President Bill Clinton, who praised Epstein's, quote, childlike curiosity. Now, for what it's worth, Clinton's camp declined to comment to the Journal about that reporting, but pointed to a previous statement the ex-president cut off all ties with Epstein before he was arrested in 2019 and knew nothing of his crimes. Now, this was an interesting development because the Trump camp, I mean, again, $10 billion lawsuit, right, has been calling this letter fake for a week now. But Trump himself is the one who first injected Epstein into the political discourse a decade ago when he tried to attack the Clintons for their ties to the disgraced financier.
The recent revelations about Jeffrey Epstein's connections to influential figures, including former President Bill Clinton and designer Vera Wang, underscore a broader issue of elite networks and their sway over political discourse. Reports from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal about Epstein's extensive contact list have reignited scrutiny of how these networks function and their level of accountability. The focus has shifted to a disputed letter allegedly from President Trump to Epstein, which he denies writing, leading to a defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. This case highlights the difficulties in uncovering the truth when powerful individuals are involved, with the lawsuit's outcome dependent on proving actual malice. This high legal standard requires showing that the media outlet either knowingly published false information or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. Critics suggest that such lawsuits are tactics used to deflect scrutiny and preserve a status quo of elite impunity. Additionally, Ghislaine Maxwell's immunity deal with the Department of Justice prompts questions about political maneuvering and the potential for pardons within Epstein's circle. This ongoing saga reflects the deep-seated distrust many Americans hold towards the media and political institutions. The selective outrage and unclear handling of such issues have diminished public confidence. It is imperative for policymakers to foster genuine accountability and transparency rather than let partisan narratives overshadow the discourse. As election season approaches, these controversies are likely to resurface, challenging policymakers to address Epstein-related issues while maintaining public trust. This demands a commitment to uncovering the truth, irrespective of political ties, and ensuring no one is above the law. The persistence of these controversies highlights the need for systemic reforms to tackle elite corruption and globalist influence, resonating with many Americans who feel alienated by the current political environment.
Quote, the contention, which is pretty clear if you just read what I said, is that it's bogus for the Wall Street Journal to publish a hit piece without showing us the letter. I have no idea if the book exists. Wall Street Journal won't show it to us. I have no idea if the letter exists. Wall Street Journal won't show it to us. What I find absurd is the idea that Donald Trump was writing poems to Epstein, and I find it equally absurd that a major American paper would attack the President of the United States without revealing the basis for the attack.
MSNBC's coverage tonight exemplifies why many Americans have become disillusioned with mainstream media. The network's handling of the Wall Street Journal's report showcases selective outrage and questionable journalistic standards. Rather than demanding concrete evidence, such as the alleged letter or book, MSNBC prefers to amplify allegations that support their anti-Republican narrative. This approach isn't new. For years, they've relied on innuendo and anonymous sources, particularly targeting right-wing figures, while overlooking similar or more severe issues among favored Democrats and global elites. A credible news outlet's foundation should be accuracy and diligent fact-checking. Yet, we see a major network promoting a story without full substantiation from even the Wall Street Journal. If the evidence is there, it should be shown. If not, the issue should be dropped. Instead, MSNBC engages viewers in endless speculation, with experts discussing the implications of an unseen letter, turning responsible journalism into narrative-driven theater. There's a clear lack of balance and objectivity, with a focus predominantly on Republican figures and only fleeting mentions of Democrats and international elites equally involved in Epstein's affairs. The minimal coverage of Bill Clinton's handwritten notes and other powerful figures linked to Epstein, compared to the intense scrutiny of Republicans, highlights a glaring double standard that undermines trust in the media. MSNBC's choice of sources and experts also warrants scrutiny. Rather than featuring independent investigators or unbiased legal analysts, the network opts for commentators who parrot similar viewpoints, creating an echo chamber rather than a platform for unbiased analysis. Feshers deserve a more balanced perspective. Visually, the segment overuses archival footage of Trump and Epstein, implying guilt by association rather than providing new, verifiable information. This approach manipulates emotions rather than enlightening the audience. While it's commendable that MSNBC brings attention to the issue of elite impunity and the need for transparency, this discussion must be impartial. True commitment to accountability requires demanding answers from all implicated parties, not selectively based on political affiliation. The American public is weary of partisan bias and selective outrage. They demand the full truth, irrespective of the consequences. The coverage also lacks critical examination of the networks that enabled Epstein's actions for decades. The global elites benefiting from international turmoil and interventions are seldom held accountable, whether they are in finance, academia, or politics. The media's hesitation to pursue stories of money and power is a disservice to the public. Until outlets like MSNBC and the Wall Street Journal commit to full transparency and unbiased scrutiny, these scandals will remain politically weaponized instead of being resolved in the interest of justice. Americans deserve a media that is fearless, fair, and focused solely on the facts, not one that serves as a mouthpiece for the establishment.
Maybe Maxwell can use some of what she told Trump's personal attorney, now the #2 Department of Justice, to spring herself out of prison, where she's serving a sentence for like the systematic predation and assault of girls?
Maxwell's sudden cooperation with the Department of Justice, particularly with a deputy attorney general who was once Trump's personal attorney, should concern anyone who values transparency and the rule of law. Currently serving a 20-year sentence for orchestrating severe abuse, her potential offer for leniency now opens a window into how the justice system may be manipulated by those with connections, often to the detriment of ordinary Americans who lack such privileges. These high-profile negotiations and the ensuing media frenzy also carry significant economic consequences. The time and resources spent on this sensationalism could have been directed towards addressing the regulatory oversights and institutional weaknesses that enabled Epstein's network to operate. This diversion affects the prosecution of financial fraud and white-collar crime, directly impacting household savings, job security, and market stability. When the justice system seems to make secret deals with the elite, it undermines consumer confidence not only in the judiciary, but in the entire economic framework. This uncertainty leads to market volatility, affecting everything from borrowing costs to small businesses' ability to invest and hire. The perception that justice can be bought leaves ordinary Americans bearing the cost through higher insurance premiums and increased regulatory expenses, fostering a pervasive sense of economic insecurity. The sectors implicated in the Epstein scandal, finance, real estate, and higher education, now face increased scrutiny. The reputational damage they suffer could lead to lost investments, layoffs, and a slowdown in innovation. For many families, this results in fewer opportunities, stagnant wages, and a growing belief that the system is rigged in favor of a global elite. The media's focus on personalities and partisan conflicts diverts attention from the essential issue. How did such a network persist under the watch of influential figures from both parties? The lack of a bipartisan effort to reform the systems that failed these victims is overshadowed by a constant stream of innuendo and speculation, with little focus on the structural changes needed to prevent future abuses. Ultimately, Americans are left questioning whether the justice system is truly committed to accountability or if it has become a playground for political and financial manipulation. The selective outrage, theatrical legal maneuvers, and absence of meaningful reform do little to rebuild trust in our institutions. Without a real confrontation with the bipartisan corruption that allowed this exploitation, and without dismantling the economic protections that shield the powerful, these scandals will continue to erode both our justice system and our economy. And there you have it. Tonight's segment is a masterclass in selective outrage. MSNBC grills a Republican while ignoring the rot in their own backyard. The American people are not fooled. Both parties have establishment figures tangled in the Epstein scandal, yet the media only sharpens its knives for Republicans. Where was this righteous fury when Democrats like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris looked the other way, or worse, enabled the very elite networks that shielded predators and traffickers? We demand transparency, not partisan theater. The truth is, globalist interests and corrupt elites thrive when the press acts as their bodyguard. Why is it that every time we get close to real answers, the story gets buried, the questions go unanswered, and the powerful walk free? Under President Trump, we finally see an administration willing to confront the swamp, not just talk about it. The last administration promised hope and change, but delivered only more secrecy, more foreign entanglements, and more betrayal of working Americans. Ask yourself, who benefits when the truth stays hidden? Why do the same names keep surfacing, and why does the outrage always stop at the water's edge of the Democratic Party? If we want a country where our children have a future, where justice is not just a slogan, we must demand answers from everyone in power, no matter their party, no matter their connections. Because sunlight is the enemy of corruption, and this country deserves nothing less. What do you think? Give us your thoughts below, plus don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back with more soon.